Okay. All right. Well, then why don't we, it's 10:32. Why don't we get going? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October Transportation Committee meeting. Thank you all for being here. We'll just go around quickly, do introductions because there's some names, some new names here. So David, go ahead.
David Lucier with the South Bay Cities COG.
Great. And I am Christian Horvath with the City of Redondo Beach in your chair. Don?
Don Zerlip, City of Redondo Beach. I'm the chair of the Metro South Bay Service Council.
Great. Steve?
Steve Lance, Director of Transportation for the COG.
Great. Olivia?
Olivia Valentine, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Hawthorne.
Jackie?
Jackie Backrack, Executive Director, the Council of Governments.
Great. James?
James Lee, Transit Operator Working Group, Torrance Transit.
Great. Ted?
Good morning, Ted Salon, City of Redondo Beach Public Works Director, also the IWG Chair.
Okay, great. Alan, welcome back.
Oh, thank you very much. Alan Cleland with DKS Associates, and I'll be helping the city present on the Manhattan Beach project.
Fantastic. Mark?
Mark Durkin, Metro.
Jimmy?
Jimmy Caltran Program.
Thank you. Helen?
Helen Shi from City of Manhattan Beach.
Great. Thank you. Shin?
Shin Furukawa, City of Torrance Public Works.
Great. Jill?
Morning, it's Jill from the City of Torrance.
Wonderful. Lifan?
Lifan Shu from City of El Segundo.
Great. Mariam?
Madami, LA County Public Works.
Okay. Mike?
Mike Bulkey with Mayor Butts.
Tammy?
Tammy Podesta with HNTB.
Great. Ryan?
Ryan Plum, Torrance Transit.
Great. Carla?
Carla Dillon, City of Lomita.
Okay. And Sumi?
Good morning, Sumi 10 Caltrans, Traffic Operations.
Wonderful. And then we do have somebody on the phone, but we don't know who you are. So if you want to identify yourself, I think you hit *6. Is that what it is, David? Okay. All right. All right. Well, we have 2 call-in users. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Let's move on. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say that again.
That's okay. It's Connie Turner with Southern California Edison.
Oh, great. Thanks for being here, Connie. Okay. All right. So, David, any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, great. We have a consent calendar, but we're going to skip over this unless there are any questions or comments that anybody wants to make on anything on the consent calendar right now. Seeing none, then we will skip over that because we don't have a quorum. I just want to point out item C, AB 361 allows us to conduct meetings as it relates to COVID-19. This was signed by the governor. So just that we are allowed to continue doing this. All right, so let's move on to the working group updates. Ted, go ahead.
Good morning. Not a whole lot of information to update. Our meeting in September was a couple of days or a few days before the Transportation Committee, and our spotlight presentation was the same presentation given by Alan Clennon on the connected travel data presentation. But the key is we're meeting this Wednesday, and we started the discussion, or at least informed everyone that we'll be having the one-on-one meetings, not we, but the COG staff regarding their Measure M and Measure R project updates for next year. We had the one for the City of Redondo Beach, but we are going to be encouraging everyone this Wednesday at IWG that if they have not already done so, to do so with David so they can have the one-on-one meetings and not only update their projects, but also encourage them to have projects that are eligible under Measure M to be applied for the following year. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ted. Any questions for Ted? All right, seeing none, then let's go on to James. I'm assuming you're going to do transit operators.
Thank you, Your Honor. And for the record, I unfortunately missed this meeting, but the Transit Operator Working Group met last Thursday, October 7th from 2 to 3 via Zoom. Discussions included ongoing impacts of COVID and any concerns raised by that to operations. There was a discussion regarding Measure R and Measure M updates, what's going on with the programs there, and the pending funding agreements coming from Metro for some of the projects. There were discussions about Metro issues, as well as the upcoming Fairless System Initiative, the free fare program for the region. There was a presentation done by CCTA EDA grants, broadband by Randy Iwasaki. And I also wanted to take a moment to thank the staff of the South Bay COG for reminding the operators and Torrance Trent specifically of opportunities for the South Bay Fiber Network program. We're working with them right now on possibly including our regional transportation center there. And that's our update, sir.
Fantastic, thanks. Does anybody have any questions for James? All right, seeing none, Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When this committee met last month, it was prior to our meeting at the Metro Service Council. Unfortunately, we had a quorum problem. We were only able to meet for an hour, and we did get a report on the 2022 Customer Experience Plan outreach. This month, however, we did get our meeting in prior to this, and we heard reports on the Metro Youth Council. We got an update on the implementation of next-gen buses. We had a small update in September. We got our regional performance report, and we were able to discuss what's going to happen with our meetings moving forward. Unfortunately, we will not be able to meet live at least through the end of the year. On a positive note, however, we have been able to re-secure our original meeting time so that starting next month, we will be at the second Friday of the month, 9:30 p.m. You might want to update your calendar.
That would be AM?
I think you mean AM.
Sorry, AM, not true. AM, and we go usually till noon.
Yeah, because you know how much people love Friday night meetings, so.
That's why we try to get it in the morning.
Right. Okay, great. Any questions for Don? All right, seeing none, then Jimmy.
Yeah, Caltrans project on South Bay, there's no change since last month, so it will be a status quo.
Okay. Great, thank you. All right, let's move on then to the Measure R and Measure M Metro budget request updates. Steve and David.
Okay, I'll do it, and then David can pitch in. As you know, we're in the middle of one-on-one meetings with the agencies. They're going very well. We're telling them in these meetings that there is no new Measure R money available in this call, that we're strictly focusing on the 3 different programs under Measure M. David goes through each of the projects, the status that we understand, and we compare it to the status of the active projects that the cities have been working on. So we're updating that list. Once we get the update of the list, we'll understand how much new money that they need to be added or how much time they need to be delayed to move our money into another fiscal year. And then once we know that, then we can decide how much money there is for new projects under Measure M. We have to handle the active projects first and provide them funding. And there's 2 parts to the funding for active projects. One is handling cost increases in their current phase, and the second is setting aside enough money in their projects to allow them to complete the projects. Some of our projects only have funding agreements in the planning phases or the environmental phases. So we have to set aside enough money for right-of-way and construction before we can start new projects. So we'll know, we're giving them a deadline of December 1st to submit their changes and their new projects. And then we'll come back to you in February with our recommendations for the new program that would start July 1. So I think that's the summary. David, anything else?
No, I think you covered it. In the agenda packet are just the most recently approved Measure R and M programs. Metro approved the Measure R one in June and the Measure M ones in September. So those are current list of projects.
So your city may have projects that were just approved last month. So it's time to get funding agreements done and get those funding projects going.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Olivia.
Yes. Hi, Steve. I just wondered, have you already met with Hawthorne staff?
Yes, we did.
We have, yes.
Okay, that's fine. So there's nothing else that needs to be done from our end as far as you're concerned?
They need to turn in by December 1st any updates of their current project, scope costs, or any new project requests that they have.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Steve or David? All right, seeing none, then Metro updates. Is this going to be Mike or Mark or?
Don't know if I have a lot, Steve. I don't know if there's anything that you want to report out on or.
Hey, Mark, why don't you, I noticed that there's a couple emails that have just gone out related to Green Line. You want to just give a quick update on where that's at?
Sure.
Or, sorry,
So,
C Line, I'm going to keep calling it Green Line until you force the C upon me, so.
So on the Green Line or the Sea Line extension to Torrance, we've got a virtual public meeting going right now, or virtual walk tours, if you will. In the light of the fact that Metro is not going out yet for public meetings, we've set up online story maps for a virtual walking tour. So we're asking the public to take a look at it, make comments on it. We're trying to get feedback from the planning side to take a look at the design elements and some of the local planning issues that might be impact the local community. So if you could take a look at the email or go onto our website, you'll find the story maps, and it's actually sort of interesting. You can take a route either on Hawthorne or on the right-of-way version, and you can go from about 4 or 5 stops. There's a script over the back of it. It takes you through sort of a short video of the stop and the location that the planners are wanting feedback on. And then you can make comments on it. You can also prioritize what is most important for you in this area. So it's a nice little exercise to bring the public along in light of the fact that we can't be out there in person yet.
Great. Okay. And then
Quick update on Fairless system. Metro, of course, has been exploring the Fairless system, and they initially expected to include in phase 1 K through 12 students and junior college students for the free fare. And then in phase 2, they were going to implement the low income fare, which is about 70% of the riders on Metro. As we understand it, they're focusing on phase 1, and they'll come back to phase 2 if at a later date. I think the key here is that they're getting school districts to sign up, including LAUSD. And in the high school level or the K through 12 level, those school districts have to commit $3 per student per year to get the free fare. And then at the junior college level, it's $7 per student per year. I think the further analysis is looking at whether the K through 12 is actually middle school and high school mostly. It's not clear that the kids in the elementary school are going to create the bulk of the ridership. So there may be further revisions as we go forward in future years, but the pilot is for 20 months. It's funded through ARPA funds, and they haven't identified the permanent funding source for this to continue after the pilot exists, nor have they identified the funding source for the low income phase 2. So they started off with a broad program, and it's focusing into a more narrowly focused K through 12 and community college free fares for the pilot, for the 20-month pilot. I think that's it. Is that right, Mark? Anything?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, but they are working through the local school districts to try to set this up. So, I would encourage the COG to make sure your school districts are signing up.
Yeah, I think they have. With getting Metro, they've reached their threshold to continue the thing, and I think they've got about half of the school districts done, and the rest of them are coming in. They were originally expecting to implement it by August and September. I think they're looking at trying to get it wrapped up for the first phase by October, no later than November.
And, you know, that team that did come and present last month, if they want to send a list of any local school districts that maybe they haven't had a chance to connect with or whatever, you know, by all means do. And, you know, I'm sure we could put that out there to electeds to try to, you know, engender maybe more conversation or ability for them to engage with the FSI team.
Mark, if you get that over to the team, then you can send it to me. Or David, send it to David, and David will get it out to the appropriate cities.
Will do.
Anything else, Mike, from your end, or no? All right, if not, are there any questions for Mark or Steve?
I just wondered if Mark could share the website address for the Green Line, Sea Line video he mentioned.
Sure, let me pull that up.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, and if you want to put that in the chat box, you can throw that in there, Mark.
Yeah, let me put it up in the chat box right now.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, well then let's move on. Today our presentation is kind of a next step from our presentation last month. This is the Manhattan Beach Advanced Traffic Signal Project overview. So who are we kicking it to? I know Alan's here for that, but
I think you're kicking it to me.
Okay, well then, by all means, Alan, take the floor.
And I'm just going to share my screen if I may.
Yes, please do.
And please, we had a little bit of a hiccup last time we did this, so please tell me if this is all looking okay.
There we go.
Looks good.
Does that work?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to hand over to Helen now. I'll operate this as Helen talks.
Hi, good morning. This is, sorry, hold on a second. Okay, all right. So I'm very honored to bring this project to SBCOG Transportation Committee. The Manhattan Beach Advanced Traffic Signal System Project, we call it MVATS, has received tremendous support from SBCOG and the Metro, Skag County adjacent cities, school district, fire department, police department, and the residents and the business owners. With SBCOG's assistance, the funding application was approved by Metro for Measure M funding. The purpose of the project is to design a state-of-the-art infrastructure and operations that can be integrated into a broadband network. So today, the agenda is we are going to have general project overview and the project deliverables, stakeholder meetings, key project components, key project activities, project status and the schedule. By the end, we will have question and answer. So next slide, please. Okay, so the purpose of the project in detail is trying to enable enhanced and coordinated signal timing and relieve congestion during peak hours, allow the system to be more responsive to changing traffic conditions, and also prepare for automation in future if possible. So as part of the South Bay Fiber Network, this is a really good opportunity for the city network to leverage on the South Bay Fiber Network. The project will design the complete network, most importantly to convert to LA County Fiber or connect to the LA County Fiber Network hub near Hawthorne Boulevard along Artesia Boulevard. As a sub-network to South Bay Fiber Network, this will definitely improve the whole regional traffic operating system. So with no further delay, I will hand over this back to Alan, who's our design engineer from DKS Associates, to elaborate on the detailed design of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. And thanks again for giving us the opportunity to present this fascinating project. I've just run through the key design topics and move on to where we are with the project now. So there's a real focus on improving signal operations within the city of Manhattan Beach. And of course, the city's work goes hand in hand with the county because the county operates the KITS traffic control system under which the city system, city traffic signals operate. So working, the cooperation with the county has been excellent to implement these types of improvements in the overall system, bringing in more dynamic signal timing. There's a lot goes on in the city of Manhattan Beach, not just during the week, but weekends as well, especially during the summer with the special events, which we'll get into in more detail. So just an overall improvement signal timing within the city is key product of this project. But the city's taken the opportunity to bring in a look into the future as well, in terms of how to accommodate this growing interest in connected and automated vehicles and how the project could support that in the future, and look at other smart city initiatives as well. And we look at each of these in turn as we go through this. So in getting into more detail, the traffic signal improvements, upgrading the traffic signal controllers to the most modern advanced transportation controllers, and this helps with the connected vehicle work as well. Bringing in video detection and a video detection management system to improve on the current loop-based systems. And adding to the video at selected sites, identifying locations for closed circuit TV. And this will support not only those special events, but also help the city better respond to any incidents that are going on in the network. Again, the city's goal is to be much more dynamic with what's going on with the traffic operations. And we're also looking at identifying the dynamic message signs on the key corridors, and you'll see how we've identified those sites shortly. The connected vehicle technology figures in terms of more accurate monitoring of the road network. That goes back actually to the presentation that I did at the last meeting, looking at connected vehicle data that's already available from the auto manufacturers, and using this to be able to download and report on travel times and speeds in the network on an almost real-time basis. But added to which, the connected vehicles are expected to support transit signal priority, emergency vehicle preemption, and improving pedestrian and bicycle mobility. And this is where the link with the South Bay COG comes in, very importantly, of course, with the slow speed network. So let's look at our project deliverables. Obviously, project management kicks everything off. We've done a lot of background research, and you'll see how we've used Metro system capabilities to support that as well. We've gone through field checking and data collection, coordinating with the utilities and coordinating with other agencies. And we're deep into task 5, the preliminary engineering and design. We submitted a draft ConOps for the city's review 2 months ago now, Helen. And we had some very good comments from the city that we've been addressing. And we submitted the final ConOps just Friday, taking those comments into account.
That stands for concept of operations.
Oh, sorry, the concept of operations. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Sure.
Making assumptions that everybody knows what I'm talking about. Yes, this is the concept of operations is a key first step in the Federal Highway Administration System Engineering Project for intelligent transportation system projects like this. And it lays out basically the objectives of the project and the needs of the various stakeholders in identifying what the project should address. And then as we get into the design, and we're in we're completing the 35% mark at the moment, that gets into and identifies the requirements and how these needs are going to be met. That also includes the environmental analysis. And under the fiber network operations study, which is a little bit of a misnomer, we're actually doing an analysis of the existing intersection operations, signal timing plans, and applying the parts of the concept of operations related to the intersection to the signal timing plan adjustments. You'll see that's an ongoing task that we're starting now. After the 35%, getting into the final design of the plan specifications and estimates, it's 65% and then 95% final. That's all going very well. Dealing with right of way, and Caltrans has been a great help in simplifying that. And then moving on finally to construction support, is all of this actually gets built within the city. And now the city has received or will be receiving the second tranche of funding from Measure M. And this is really one large project, not just the design and first phase, but the total project together. In terms of stakeholder meetings held, and we have several stakeholders here. There we go. In terms of the City of Manhattan Beach departments, not only traffic, of course, but police, fire, IT department has been key in this as we look at connecting into the South Bay fiber network, because it already goes into City Hall. Parks and Recreation, which honestly we didn't expect at the beginning, but there we go. This is the beauty of a broad-based fiber network, and community development as well. In terms of other agencies, I mentioned the county already because they run the traffic control system. LA Metro, a very important partner in all of this, as we will see. Of course, the South Bay COG, who were responsible for and are responsible for the South Bay fiber network. And we had contact with SCAG as well. And as during the course of our discussions with the city departments, we identified the need to address Beach City Transit as we looked at TSP, and that's actually managed by the City of Redondo Beach, and the City of Redondo Beach have been very helpful. Thank you, Ted, with the support that we've got in that activity, and community development department as well from other agencies. And then finally, American Dark Fiber is the third-party private organization that manages the South Bay fiber network. And we've had several discussions with them as you see how important coordination with the South Bay fiber network is as part of this project. The key points that arose from the meetings that we've had in terms of the city departments, they all recognize that this is a major opportunity for enhanced traffic operations. The police being so engaged with this, there's this very strong relationship between the city's traffic department and the police, not only for day-to-day operations because of the special events that need to be managed on a dynamic, real-time basis, but going beyond traffic and police and the fire department, the project provides support to several departments within the city. And I think this just emphasizes how important these broadband fiber networks are to the city as a whole. And the city is taking this as an opportunity to reduce ongoing communications costs, getting real leverage from the South Bay fiber network, as well as the new metro network. The county role, as I said, providing contracted services for managing, operating the traffic control equipment within the city, and we're looking at an expansion of services as a result of the work that's being done on the project, and relying on the relationship with the county to add these additional capabilities to the existing KISS traffic control system that resides in Alhambra. The South Bay COG role, oversight of the South Bay fiber network, obviously, and then gateway to external services. When we got into an initial discussion with the COG about this item of access to expanded to other applications, smart city applications. I think it was Aaron Bohm that mentioned to us that there's an activity within the COG to look at exactly that. And so the city decided to get involved in that in future as that develops, to address that aspect of the project. And then finally, the metro role, last but by no means least, the obvious one of consolidating regional data, really building on the software platforms that Metro has already invested in, such as RITS and the new transit management platform, and providing the gateway to external services and third parties that will be extremely useful in several different areas, as you'll see. We have some stakeholder meetings that we're in the process of organizing together with the city. Adjacent cities of El Segundo, Hawthorne, Hermosa Beach, and Redondo Beach. We now have some very concrete issues and topics to discuss with them that were resulting from the stakeholder meetings that we've had already. And then, of course, the all-important community outreach to the city communities. We're planning on several meetings there and anticipating sensitivity to elements such as the dynamic message signs and closed-circuit TV for surveillance of the road network. So the key project components. So we start off with the South Bay Fiber Network, and this is from a SBCCOG project definition, identifying all the different connections to the fiber, and you see the city node here, Manhattan Beach. I talked about that is installed already at City Hall. But you see all the other city nodes here, the county's KIT system at Alhambra that I've talked about, the county's own information exchange network that links the county system to other cities as well. And then the metro systems I've just been talking about, RITS, and links that RITS has to third parties. And then, of course, the all-important links to the internet through these various existing networks. So we take this, and now the first step was to develop an initial concept. As part of the ConOps, right at the very beginning, you look at the overall goal of the project and lay out a tentative architecture for the system. And you'll see that the Manhattan Beach Fiber Ring, the MB Ring as we call it, linking to the South Bay Smart Net is the joint broadband networks that are at the center of the project. And you'll see the traffic signal equipment, the terminals in various facilities within the city, that smart city server, mobility server addressing the connected vehicle needs, other city facilities that need to be brought in, local businesses and homes to be considered as well. So this is just a system concept to get going, and we refine this, as you'll see, through the ConOps and the first stage of the design. So if we look at the fiber ring, which is central to the project, the first thing we realized, it was the extent of high capacity fiber networks in the region already, as well as the South Bay Fiber Network, which is the South Bay City COG and American Dark Fiber activity. We have internet service providers to take into account. And the key one there is Spectrum that's providing services to the city already. When we looked at given that we have these other networks, what opportunities are there for making use of these existing facilities already to reduce costs on the project? We focused upon swapping conduit infrastructure. So if you think of the ducts, the conduit that's there already, carrying fiber for these other networks, if there would be an opportunity to, as the city comes in and builds additional capability within the city, if any of the other third parties would like to have access to those ducts to expand their own capacity, maybe there's an opportunity to swap. The idea here is to bring in significant infrastructure savings. You may say, well, if we're in parallel with these other services, why doesn't the city just lease the capacity there? But that actually ends up increasing the city's costs. And the goal here is to reduce the costs to the city through leveraging the new fiber network under the Measure M funding. So the approach here is leveraging the South Bay Fiber through a county-city connection, And the estimate there is about $800,000 in infrastructure savings on that activity alone. And the cost of that, because obviously there's a cost associated with the city being connected to the South Bay Fiber, is $900 monthly, or about $10,000, just short of $11,000 a year annually. So there's a very good trade-off right off the bat from the initial fiber design. And this is the initial fiber design as we've now laid it out, refining the basic proposal that was put forward in the early stages of the project. And we identify in green here the fiber routes and the key high priority hubs here. You see City Hall and the Public Works Maintenance Department. And this fire station number 2 is a critical link. That's currently that Spectrum link that I mentioned. And replacing that reduces costs as well.
Alan, can I ask you a quick question here?
Certainly.
Great. And then, you know, and Jimmy from Caltrans may want to weigh in on this. So can you go back one slide?
I'll try. There we go.
Okay, so you know you're addressing the vast majority of your major arterials, which is wonderful, right? But the main one, PCH or Sepulveda, is not on there, right? And that's a Caltrans street. But Caltrans is doing a major project from Long Beach all the way up to El Segundo in the next few years here, and I've mentioned this to our staff in Redondo as well. Do we know whether Caltrans would be interested as a part of that project, you know, the ability to either lay conduit that could connect to the South Bay Fiber network and create signal synchronization along that corridor, whether it's in your city or the entire corridor, really, because it's the one that most commuters use getting in and out of the South Bay. And there are definitely hangups, not in Manhattan Beach per se, but I'm just wondering if you guys have had that conversation, and Jimmy, feel free to weigh in as well.
I'll check it with our traffic because last time I remember that we have a PCH, at least initial start for the dynamic corridor. What do you call that? It's the TMS going on, and right now we have a rehab project going on. So I will check with our traffic people as far as what is the next. I know that we will have something going on as far as for traffic management system and PCH and more. I think they're more than interested in communicate with Alan's group and see how they can fit in.
So I did have a discussion with Alan Chen, a couple of discussions actually, looking at how we could use any facilities, whether it's conduit or whether it's existing fiber, on Sepulveda Boulevard. The problem with Sepulveda, which in the future, it would probably be solved by the link you're talking about, Councillor, is that it's only, the ducts were made for existing twisted pair, which will not carry the fiber. So there's no capability that Caltrans can offer that would help in terms of providing conduit capacity for the city to use. And in addition, those routes are all north-south. And as you can see from the chart here, from the map, what the city is requiring are crossings of Sepulveda. So in the schedule for the project, Alan went away to talk to other departments within Caltrans and came back that there was nothing that would be happening within the project schedule that the city could take benefit from in terms of new Caltrans facilities going in.
Got it. Okay. Well, you know, again, the point being just thinking bigger and long term here.
Oh, yes.
It would be wonderful, you know, if all the cities along the corridor were able to take advantage of a major infrastructure project, being able to put in as a part of that anything that we would need to ensure that goes into not only your project but future projects in the adjacent cities. So, just food for thought. Thank you. Sorry to have interrupted.
No, that's a very good point. Thank you.
It is a very good point, but I think our project probably will go ahead first. And then once Caltrans project started or furnished, then we can, just plug in or do some conjunction at the point, Sepulveda and the Manhattan Beach Boulevard, and the Sepulveda and the Rosecrans. That is possible, but we will leave that to our design engineer to figure out how to do the connection to, leave the connection for a future opportunity.
So the project that we're talking about on Sepulveda is a rehabilitation project under their SHOP program. It's not a major project that would typically include this new kind of infrastructure. So they're going to have to come back sometime after they finish rehabbing the street and do micro trenching or somehow install a conduit. And they typically take a 5-year hiatus after they do a major reconstruction. So they're not just continuously tearing up the streets. So that Sepulveda connection is too late for this project, but might be available several years down the road.
No, and I brought it up, Steve, because I'm aware that, we don't like to dig up roads.
Yeah.
And so, in trying to think forward, why would we want to delay, if there's a project going through that is going to be resurfacing where they could technically do that, is there a way to find some synergy to move forward with something that will have long-term implications and probably lower cost doing it sooner than later, while they're already tearing up a street. That's the only reason I bring it up. So
I think you have the right answer. It's just the timing didn't come out right.
Yeah.
But the other possibility, Councilmember Horvath mentioned, was a connection between the South Bay Fiber and Caltrans, putting them on the actual South Bay Fiber network.
Mm-hmm.
Given the capacity that we've seen between the South Bay, especially the Manhattan Beach area, the coastal area, and downtown LA in broadband capacity, linking the South Bay Fiber network to Caltrans District 7 headquarters would not require much construction at all.
Yeah, if we can get their data into our network, we can get it to downtown.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just 1 or 2 connections at either end of the corridor back to our ring.
And then the county can
conversation there
in terms of synchronization of the signals. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, back to your discussion of synergy, the fact that you've got crossings at Rosecrans and Manhattan Beach Boulevard, the only suggestion I would offer is that you guys have a large enough pull box where you can have sweeps from the new system that is being proposed coming into that return near the Caltrans signal system. That way, in the future, if they do want to make a connection into it, that they're breaking up concrete work in the sidewalk and not necessarily having to touch the asphalt pavement to try to make a connection and cut into that conduit and make the sweeps back up. I think that may offer you an opportunity for the future to sort of minimize the amount of infrastructure. And Sume can confirm, I see her that she's popped on already. Early on in the scoping of the project for the CAP-M, I think her team was making an argument for additional conduits there. I know the city of Manhattan Beach was asking for even empty conduits to go up and down the corridor, which was not very well received by the Caltrans project manager at that time because of cost. But I know there's a portion of PCH that actually has fiber in it as for their signal connectivity system. There is a portion that did not have it, and they were contemplating between that, the extension of the fiber and or using wireless type of communication. But that is something that maybe Sume can add on. My only biggest contribution to say is when you're cutting across and crossing Sepulveda in these locations is to put in pull boxes, large enough pull boxes with sweeps coming up into that sidewalk adjacent to the traffic signals. Then that may offer and minimize the amount of infrastructure work in the future.
Well, thanks, Ted. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so this is Sume. So Ted is correct. And also Alan, in addition to reaching out to Alan Chen, you can also reach out to me if you want to talk about signal work, because Alan is overseeing the ITS or the fiber network, but my office is actually responsible for all traffic signal operations. So you can also reach out to us if you want to talk about signal synchronization and that type of work. And the reason why we couldn't include, this kind of conduit work in the rehab projects, because under SB1 and our SHOP funding mechanism, it's a fix it first type of mechanism. So at this point, it's very difficult for Caltrans to come in and build new conduits because under SB1 and our SHOP guideline, it's basically like a fix it first. So in the Go California campaign, I forgot the year, in the 90s, we were able to lay fiber network on a portion of PCH or Route 1, Route 107, I think in the Torrance area, and Route 213, Western Avenue. However, I don't think we went that far north. So this segment, we actually don't have fiber, and I do not see it happening for the next 5-10 years, unless a new infrastructure bill by federal comes in and we have new money, then it's a possibility. But at this point, like Steve said, within the next 5 to 10 years, I don't see that happening. However, having central system communication and traffic signal is one of our goals. And we plan to put in modems if we don't have fiber for communication and for synchronization purposes. So for this location, we can coordinate with the city, like how we do with Long Beach. We use modem and we work with the city to sync our signal. So it can be done. It may not be through fiber, but we have a wireless modem that we can use. But feel free to also reach out to me if you want to talk about signals and that type of work. So my office will be able to assist you.
Because this project was paid for by the Measure M program,
Yeah.
it's worth exploring with Tony, your district director, whether there's an interest in the short term in having this, if you could find the funds to make these connections. At least the short connections via wireless or via connection at Artesia and maybe Rosecrans, somewhere north and south of along the corridor, and then down to connect down wirelessly, perhaps to the one in the Torrance area. It just seems to be a shame that we're not signal coordinating the state highway with,
Well, there is an element
with the
of
regional
project
streets.
when it was realized, Steve and Sume, that there wasn't that easy ability to connect the two systems. Then we took an alternative approach together with the city of making sure that the intersections that are impacted by changes on Sepulveda, and these intersections here at Village Drive, Cedar Avenue, and here's entrance to the mall, that they have the ability, they're fitted not just with video detection, but they're fitted with radar detection. So they have the radar detection has the ability to have a longer range than the video. And so the programming of these controllers can take into account changes in traffic flow coming from Sepulveda Boulevard in the timings. And that would be the advantage of this more dynamic approach that we're asking county to bring in to the KIT system. So there'll be an element of coordination. It's not a hardwired communication between the Caltrans signals and the Manhattan Beach signals. It's something that's been tagged passive coordination, that at least the Manhattan Beach city system would be, county system would be aware of significant changes on Sepulveda that it could take into account on the city's network.
If you were needed, Alan, if you had to put in pull boxes adjacent to Sepulveda rather than using the passive system with the pulls through it, what would that cost per intersection?
Oh, I would not be able, I wouldn't hazard a guess, to be quite honest. Especially if they TED Saman larger sized pull boxes to accommodate larger sweeps. We'd have to look at that carefully.
I just think it's just a shame that we're not getting this thing fully coordinated for what we're spending. It's just an obvious hole in the system that doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, we'll follow up.
Absolutely. Well, getting back to the fiber network, I talked about the ability to share conduits. And you see it here. The blue is the South Bay fiber network. And the red is the city network. And you can see these areas where there's overlap. And now we have our schematic laid out for the Manhattan Beach fiber ring, where we've identified the backhaul and the distribution cables. We now have the ability to go back and talk to American Fiber and look at specific sections and see if there's opportunity for that, not leasing, but trading capacity with American Dark Fiber. Turning to the, I'm sensitive to the time here, council member, but turning to the operational scenarios, what we've done here, we've looked at day-to-day congestion management, impact of incidents, and special events. And for the special events, we identified 3 zones, going back and looking at the history of events within the city of Manhattan Beach. And you recognize Zone 1 as a key one, of course, because of the Manhattan Beach Volleyball Open. And what we've done is to use Metro's Measure Up system to look at traffic speeds, travel times on the network as these events take place. And this provides quite some detail. This is the Manhattan Beach Open from, we went back to the last one, 2019. And by looking at the distribution of traffic, the speeds, and travel times in a time series fashion, looking at this before the event and then at times during the event, we could trace the impact of the event and the congestion caused by the traffic. We did this for all of those zones, different events in those 3 areas, and the police department was very helpful. Community development passing us the special event management plans. And this enabled us to prioritize CCTV and DMS locations throughout the city to support congestion management, incidents, and these special events. And these are the recommendations that came out for intersection improvements and for camera locations and dynamic message signs locations. And we're in the next step now of actually doing the field surveys, especially for the changeable, the dynamic message signs, to create renderings of these signs in preparation for the community meetings. And this process enables us to have a look at options for placement of signs, as well as being ready to address the outreach, the community and the outreach meetings that we're going to have. We can justify the location from the analysis we've done, and we can look at how they get accommodated on the highway. But public acceptance is really helped by being able to visualize these and see what it could look like out on the street in the future. And we're in the process of doing that now. This is just an example of what a rendering could look like. In terms of the overall system concept, if we remember, we had a diagram as we started, and we've refined that. And the only part is missing is the connected and automated vehicle support, which I'll address in a second. But you'll see here the addition of the dynamic message sign CCTV links into RITS through the Metro to South Bay, and also through the internet, accessing the Southern California 511, which will help with informing the public of what's going on in these special events, as well as third parties such as Google and Waze, and accommodating mobile terminals to help the Emergency Operations Center and police operations. So this is how the system concept has evolved. For the very quickly, for the connected and automated vehicle support, we recognize that the city relies on the county through that agreement for operations and maintenance, and that creates a barrier for adding even more equipment on the street for connectivity to vehicles, like the roadside units that are needed and additional antennas on the poles. It's all extra equipment to be maintained. So we went back to basics. We looked at emergency vehicle preemption. That's already been taken care of by the equipment that's being being installed by the fire department together with the Hawthorne Communications Center. Transit signal priority, we identify the potential pilot project for use with to test the Metro's new next-gen transit signal priority. We have not brought that to the table, and the cities have not brought that to the table. This is Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach City Transit just yet, but it's been identified as a possibility. So what we've come out with as a concept is going directly to these new traffic signal controllers that will be upgraded and extracting the data. This is all technology heavy terminology here, but these are the messages that we extract to create the information that goes out to connected vehicles. And rather than do it through equipment that's on the street with antennas, it goes up into the cloud for third-party applications to access the information and send it to mobile devices, smartphones, for example, and to onboard units on vehicles. And this becomes a possibility now that the Federal Communications Commission has decided on the technology that's allowed in the bandwidth to provide this link. And we think this whole process really sets the city up for the future for not only automated vehicles, for autonomous vehicles as well. Project status, these are the various tasks that I went through earlier on. This is where we are now, and we're right up to schedule, and we're finishing off the 35%. This was the ConOps being produced and all the field check work. The program, we started work on looking at the signal timings. That's going back to that presentation last week. So that's then work on the 65% is starting already. So thank you very, very much. I'm sure Helen and I are ready to take any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Alan or Helen? All right, well, I don't see any, but at this point, and I've asked my one main question, so I appreciate you coming, Alan and Helen, today and presenting this. Clearly, our goal is to see more cities take on projects of this nature, especially now that we have the SBFN up and running ideally in the coming next 3 to 5 years. And I'm sure if you want to put your contact information into the chat, then David can save that and also put that out there for anybody who wants to contact you later, since we didn't have some other electeds on the call today.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so let's move on to the 3-month look ahead. It's attachment E. Did you want to point anything out on that, Steve? Or
yeah, we're bringing to the IWG the local travel network presentation this month, and then in November we're going to bring it to the transit operators working group. We'll continue to work on the call for projects, the Measure M program, and I think that's it. Metro Board is going to be dark in November. They combine their November-December meeting. And the question we have we'll talk about to the transit operators is their board meeting is on the 2nd in December, that combined meeting. So we don't know whether the transit operators want to be dark on that same day, which they're supposed to meet the same day, and whether we want to be dark at IWG in December. We'll come back to you next month with that. Transportation Committee will still have the Metro budget update, and steering committee, if we need to, we'll bring it to there because the COG board is dark in December.
Got it.
Okay.
Sounds good. Jackie, you're muted.
Yeah, the COG board in December is the steering committee. So we do have that December meeting where you can bring things to.
Right. That's why we put the Metro budget update to the steering committee rather than the board in December.
Okay. All right. So then with that said, are there any announcements from anyone? If not, then we will adjourn this meeting at 11:32, and we'll see you guys on Monday, November 8th at 10:30 a.m. Thanks everyone for being here.